You know what? That's probably what it is. Okay, here. It's recording.
Okay.
Yep, 6 seconds. I'm just kidding.
Good evening. My article was titled Mentoring Overseas Nurses, Barriers to Effective and Non-Discriminatory Mentoring Practices. And it's written by a research nurse who actually works for the Nursing and Midwifery Education Department of the University of Surrey, which is in United Kingdom. So my presentation tonight is going to give you a little bit different perspective from a different country, instead of it being an American point of view. So it's United Kingdom, Great Britain. And this is from the Nursing Ethics Journal in 2010. Of course, she's a faculty member there. And I wrote up on the board, mentoring overseas nurses. And I wanted to focus on that. In this particular article, they have nurses that come there and work in the United Kingdom from different countries, and they work for the National Health Service. But the article didn't describe National Health Service. It's just saying that this was where the research was done. So I had to go and do research because I didn't want to just be able to present National Health Service and not tell you what it is. So national means everybody in the nation gets free health care. And it was started in 1948, but it was started in 1948 by the health secretary. And it was in a Park Hospital in Manchester. And he opened it up where this was the first time doctors, nurses, pharmacists, dentists were all under one umbrella to provide services that were free. And the principles were, that he wanted to focus on were that they receive health services were available to all and financed entirely from the taxes, which means people pay into it according to their means. So if that concept was in the United States, I think people would just flip out. Because the millionaires would not want to pay for people who did not work and do what they needed. I mean, to pay into the system. So I just don't think that that concept would go over very well. But in the United Kingdom, that happened in 1948. And it's interesting on this website that I went to research, it will tell you exactly what's covered and what price you're going to pay for a prescription. That was some of the things that started later on, like in the 80s or 90s when they started paying like $1 for their prescriptions. Before that, all the prescriptions were free. And then, like Angie brought up, pregnant women, people with end-stage renal cancer, some of those patients, everything is taken care of. There's no co-pays for their medication whatsoever. And in that country, they call 999 for emergency, and they call it the Accident and Emergency Department, the A&E. And then for all non-emergent, or for anything that's not emergent, they go to the minor injury units, like what we would call urgent cares here in America. So the main points to the article talked about, just because we're taught ethics in nursing school or in medical school doesn't mean that it's practiced. And there is a nursing shortage where the National Health Service recruited nurses from overseas. However, the British nurses resented the new nurses that came in. And they demonstrated bullying and discriminatory practices in the workplace. So they're there to help them with the nursing shortage, but yet they decided to be bullies. Nurses were subject to racism and discrimination. Mentoring is an important feature of professional learning and clinical practices, and that didn't happen. Because a mentor is considered like their gatekeeper, or, you know, for assessment supervision, like someone who's trained in a different country, and being there, how they train or how they treat the population. British nurses placed overseas trained nurses at the bottom of the hierarchy and did not expect much from them. Overseas nurses were criticized in a destructive manner. And they were asked questions like, why are you here? Why do you work here? How long do you want to stay here? And why should you stay when your family's not here? I mean, it's just everything just derogatory. Overseas nurses' perspectives was that they were not recognized for their skills that they gained in their own country, which actually made them feel inadequate. So, the findings, managers, they didn't really prepare the mentors for this. And they didn't even train the mentors to think that maybe the foreign nurses had a different learning style. Because we all have different learning styles. And as instructors, you know, you have to be able to instruct to all different types, all three of the learning styles. So instructors are never really auditory or visual. We have to be able to be all three at once. And in the discussion part, discrimination, bullying, and racism continues to exist, even though ethical practice is taught in college. This violates the code of conduct for registered nurses, goes largely unreported by overseas nurses. So even though they're being treated this way, they don't report it. They're in a foreign country. They have no idea, you know, what might happen to them. And the National Health Service needs to prepare mentors for mentoring effectively, and to think about both the knowledge overseas nurses brings to the learning environment and their specific learning needs in that new culture. So as leaders or managers, it's important that they had trained those mentors to be able to appeal to the different types of cultures that actually do come in and work there. And one of the last questions that were asked for their journal review was this article information useful? And could it be something that we could use? And yes, I thought so, because you know, I'm from a rural area, and so my exposure to different cultures is very limited. So being here in California has really opened me up to that, and definitely made me feel that I need to make sure that that's not discrimination practices that occur in that particular area of the workplace. In my particular military unit, we have all different kinds of diversities there, and I really love that. Not everyone is the same. Not everybody practices the same. We have people there from Jamaica, the Philippines, just different places, and I love being able to talk to them about how different things are and how things are here in America with them practicing here in the U.S. So is there any discussion or any kind of questions you'd like to ask regarding the article? Dana?
I just wanted to make a point, because I've been very impressed with the National Health Service. And I think it started maybe 5 or 8, 10 years ago, when I was looking up something about CHS to teach to students, and we didn't have core measures or anything like that. And all the research was, when you looked at it, the British Health Service was on top of it. They had home visits, they were having people weigh themselves, they were calling in the weights, I mean, they were doing all these things. And I think it's because they had to have good managed care to be economically viable. And I just think that we're so far behind.
Yes, we are.
And when you look, there's so much more nursing research that comes out of, you know, I mean, if you think that the population's gotta be a lot smaller than the United States, and so much research comes out of the British and Australian nurses.
So in many of the research that from what Dana's talking about from the UK, is there any time that you've ever heard of them, the citizens complain of paying into this system? No, why not? It's because it
I
was
have,
established.
actually,
You
but
have it?
I lived in Germany and
Okay.
spoke with some British people. The Germans were very unhappy when the wall fell down and they had to pay for all of Eastern Germany taxes as well as Western. That was a big complaint. At that time, they were really complaining about the taxes and stuff. But if you get time that you can spend in a spa and you're stressed out and you get, you know, a week in the health spa and you can do that, I mean, that's, you know, it's kind of like you wonder, you know, what kind of benefits you get. And I do think that as far as, in Germany as well as England, I think they do a lot more things with holistic and natural and health. And I think Dana's absolutely right that we are behind the power curve for what we pay for, you know, for what we get. However, the United States is huge. I mean, Germany's the size of Montana. So I mean, California has more than probably England and Germany and France together. I mean, I don't know. California's what was it? Mark who said that there was going to be 6 million people that needed health care?
California's the
California
8th
alone.
largest economy in the world.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
if you think, I mean, it's like,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah,
Jerry Brown's on top of it.
you leave him alone.
No, I love Jerry.
When you think Americans, do you think that if we had this type of system where only people that were in emergency situations use the emergency room, you would get so much better quality of care because the other people would be going to, what was it called again?
Like the
Minor
urgent care. Yeah,
injury.
minor.
Yeah,
And so, and then it even on the website says, what do you need to go to the emergency room for? What do you need to call your doctor about? And everything is on there,
And everybody has a doctor to call.
and everybody has one, and I just
Well,
think,
yeah, but they have no choice because this is one of the socialized
But they've also
healthcare
grown up
system.
with it. I mean,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you have two generations
Uh-huh.
now that
Right.
don't think, you know,
There's
I
anything
got a
wrong with
headache,
it.
I better call the ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's it. And I think, you know, when you look at when it was formed, you have to think how much of that came out of World War II,
Right.
where they had really learned that, you know, if you don't hang together, you're gonna fry.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, I think that history made it real easy to form the National Health Service.
Well, and I wonder too that how much did America help Britain out? I mean, you know, in Germany, I mean, we are everybody else's friend. The millions of dollars that we pour into other countries that they have used effectively for other things. I mean, you know, Africa, and I'm not saying not to be philanthropic. I'm not saying to not be, you know, help other countries and things. But I think sometimes we need to examine, you know, how much money are we spending to other countries and everything. I mean, when my son was over in Afghanistan and my girlfriend was over there, she was basically like discharge planning. And when you said that this doctor was a neurosurgeon, I'm like, really? Where's he going to send people for rehab? Because my friend was a discharge planner. She's like, this is ridiculous. You know, yeah, we can say your leg's blown off, but if you don't have someone to take them home with, there is no rehab. There's nothing there. They're living in a mud hut, and you know the chance of infection and that kind of stuff. And then you go out and they spend, you know, so much money on rehab. I mean, helping somebody survive and stuff, and then they send them home, and then the Taliban goes and kills them because they thought that they were being friendly. I mean, so, and my son's like, really, are we going to change the mentality of these people who don't want to be changed? So, I don't know. I think, you know, the globalization, I think is a huge question. I think it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I think it's worth discussing, and I think that as nursing leaders, and you guys are in positions to say, hey, let's see what we can do. And like Dana says, can we do this better with less? Can we, you know? I don't know.
thank you so much for your discussion.
Yeah, I know. She
Thank you
wanted
for
the.
taking me.
She only wanted the editorial article